Welcome back, one and all, to Out of the Main. We are finally reaching the end of the road to the Vinyl 4. And John, I think what we're starting with here today, did we settle on the Sibilant 16?
I was thinking about that before, and I was going to tell you, I did not spend any time workshopping that. So we're stuck with Sibilant 16, and you forgot to say born on the radio, raised at sea, something like, no, born at sea, raised on radio.
Yes. Yeah, leave that to the professionals, if you would. I was getting to that.
Okay.
And we are getting to, again, having a guest judge join us today. If you haven't been following along, we decided to do something different with our March Mayhem tournament this year. And we are bringing in, to help us pick these albums, co-conspirators and collaborators that you and I have worked with on music. And listeners to this podcast may recall that last year you collaborated with none other than our guest today, Kevin from the Docksiders. Kevin, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, fellas. I love that. I thought this was the Three Bald Guys monthly meeting, and I thought I was in the right place, but apparently we're going to be talking about music today, so I'm all down for that too.
Listener Jorn's going to love that comment. He starts every comment on Facebook pointing out our baldness. So
he calls us the Bald Avengers. So
yeah,
I love it.
Yep.
So
I'm not bald, technically.
The two of you Bald Avengers collaborated last year on an album called Timeless Journey, was it not?
It was, and it was a fun collaboration nonetheless. We made a record for the Docksiders, which was really cool. And rumor has it that there might be some more collaboration in the future too.
Yes. Ooh, yeah, dropping news here on the podcast.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
Well, this is your third time, I think, on the podcast. For those of you who don't know, I think Tony Orlando these days is calling you the best, not only America's favorite yacht rock tribute band, but I see him heralding you as the best. So that's got to feel good, Kevin.
Wow. It's pretty amazing that the legend Tony Orlando finds so much joy, and it still is so humbling to see him at our shows, and he comes pretty regularly when he's in Las Vegas. And he helps out in many ways. You know, I've met a lot of people in the entertainment business for the years that I've done it, and there really has been nobody more selfless and full of heart than the legend that is Tony Orlando. And you know, he recently retired from performing, 64 years, and now he still wants to be involved. And he's the official yet unofficial manager of the Docksiders.
Yeah, music never leaves you, no matter how old you get. So you couldn't have had a better sort of pathway when you decided to go to Vegas and then hooking up with Tony Orlando and having that as sort of your, you say unofficial manager, but that's a pretty solid start. Well, what we're here to do today, we could, if you have to phone a friend, you could call Tony, I suppose. But we are down to the final 16 albums.
Sibilant 16.
Yes, in the road to the Vinyl 4. I wanted to call it the roads to the Vinyl 4, but Tom nixed that. He gets to make all those decisions. But anyway, we're down to 16 albums. We are going to, Tom and I will alternate being MC, posing matchups of albums that have made it this far. And the other two that are being posed, the matchup two will have to decide which album they want to go through and why. Should they agree, that album moves on to the next round. Should they disagree, the MC would get a tiebreaker, and that can get very pressure-packed, I guess you might say.
You call it squeaky bum time, as I recall.
I did, yes. That's good. You remember.
All right, Kevin, any questions for you before we jump into the tournament?
I think I'm good to go. I'm just going to follow your lead. You guys are the professionals here with this this bracket tournament, and there's some really great albums in this Sibilant 16 that are left. So I'm ready to dig in with you.
Yeah, and to recap, they are albums primarily from 1975 to 85 with a little bit of squeakiness on the ends there, but it is not necessarily the original list was not necessarily the top 64 albums of all time. It was specific to our the genres that we discuss here, as well as the era that we discuss. So if people are just tuning in, they should know that this is not necessarily meant to crown the greatest album of all time. Though we might.
Can I interject that, as I sit as a listener still and listen to music, especially in that decade that you guys have picked for this, I sometimes, in no joke, sit in complete bewilderment that this iconic music was actually recorded in a very short window of time in that decade that you said. And even, I mean, we could even narrow that decade and say from 80 to 85 or from 75 to 80. It as a creative, it blows my mind that kind of work was I don't know what else to say. It's just crazy that it was recorded in that.
Everything peaked. We talk about this, the quality of the recording, the quality of the musicianship, the songwriting, as well as there was evolution. Every single year, new sounds were coming out and everybody was evolving with the time. So it wasn't a static 10 years where we did this for 10 years. It's just very top of that mountain.
Absolutely. I'm excited to talk about some of this stuff.
All right, cool. Yeah. And last bit on that is we talked before, John, we were spoiled. Like at the time, everything was coming out was just seemed like the next masterpiece. And it wasn't until that all went away around maybe the year 2000 where now we're like, wait a minute, where's all the great music? We got to go back and go find it. So anyways, all right, who's going to go first, John? I have this website up here called justflipacoin.com. You want to pick heads or tails?
I'll pick heads.
You won. It's heads. Okay, so
you defer.
Yeah,
defer.
Always defer. So
always defer.
You get to pick the first matchup.
Okay, I'm going to start us off with an easy one. All right, it'll be nice to the guest.
Such thing.
Well, this is. I'm going to start in the upper left-hand corner here. This is the Life Has Surface Noise region. The number one seed has advanced, of course, Thriller. But it's faced the upset-minded 12 seed who overcame Graceland and Foreigner's debut to meet Thriller in the Siblet 16, and that is American Fool by John Cougar at the time.
I don't know how it got this far, but Kevin, you may begin.
Listen, that John Cougar album is ridiculous. It's iconic. It stood out on the radio. I mean, I remember when those songs were playing on the radio, they were phenomenal. But guys, listen. No, there's a reason why Thriller is number one. I am not. We could talk about episodes after episodes about the masterpiece that is that record, and my vote says that still matches up in its own class. That gets my vote.
Yeah, I would not have put American Fool past Foreigner. I don't believe that I did. I think that may have been on a tiebreaker. But so American Fool would not have made it this far. But regardless, Thriller is the clear victor in this particular matchup.
Yep. Okay, I think that was Tom, the dulcet tones of August Red, who put American Fool through.
Yes.
Another co-conspirator. All right. All right, your turn.
And that makes me the MC, and this is extremely difficult matchup, I believe. We've got Purple Rain, which, of course, in the last round knocked out Toto 4. So many of our listeners probably dropped off at that point. Hope not, because now Purple Rain is up against Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life. Man.
That's a 2 seed. So we've got a 3 against 2 here.
Chalky, but nonetheless.
Kevin, what say you?
I might upset a lot of people listening to this. Right, two geniuses that make music, and one no longer with us. Purple Rain was an instrumental album in my upbringing as a musician, as a producer, as an engineer. There were some tricks on that record that I don't know if we'd heard the likes of before that album. And I probably am going to, like I said, upset a couple people, but to me, Purple Rain is got my vote hardcore. I'm all in on Purple Rain.
Whoa.
I'm not taking anything away from Songs in the Key of Life at all. But
all right. I thought you were going the other direction, to be honest. I thought that was all teeing up. That makes things difficult on me because I don't know if I want to decide this one. My heart is with Prince in 1999, just from, Songs in the Key of Life sort of predated me originally. But 1999, or wait, is it Purple Rain? Purple Rain did not. Jeez. I mean, that Songs in the Key of Life is just a huge album, figuratively and literally. John, I'm going with Songs in the Key of Life and making you break the tie.
Just despite me. Well, I'll tell you, we know that there's great music sometimes, and yet sometimes it just doesn't connect with you personally, your emotions. And there's two like absolute monster records in history that I know intellectually are just, the best of the best. One of them is in this tournament. The other one is not. So, but they don't connect with me at all. So the one that's not in this tournament is Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. I know it's brilliant. It doesn't connect to me. And the same is true with Songs in the Key of Life. So on that alone, I am going through with Purple Rain, and it's also probably in my top 5 albums of all time in and of itself. So Purple Rain goes through.
Wait, unless I've not used a power play yet. I could use a power play to override. Since it's going bye-bye, I just wanted to, for our original hardcore listeners, to point out the Yachty personnel on Songs in the Key of Life. Greg Fillinganes on keyboards, Michael Cimbello, lead guitar, Nathan Watts on bass, and Denise Williams on vocals. That said, I am not exercising my power play. I feel inclined to, but I'm going to let Prince go through.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Whew. That was difficult. It required all that conversation.
That's a tough matchup.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Emotionally. All right.
I'm going to skip the next one because that's easy, and I feel like I should be presented an easy one next time. This one's more difficult, Chad. So I'm skipping ahead on your bracket. I'm going down to Born in the USA versus VH1, Van Halen's debut record. Who wants to start?
Well, I'm going to start this one because I don't think it's difficult for me. What I think. I don't get much out of Born in the USA, but I think Van Halen's album is one of those points where things just suddenly change. It's like a node on the line where you could suddenly see a diversion, and everything changed with that record. I am going Van Halen's debut. Kevin, what are your thoughts?
Listen, Born in the USA was the transition from the grinder that was Bruce Springsteen prior to crossing over to mainstream popular radio. It put him on the map in a way that we all know him as the boss from this point forward. And it was a great record. I'm not going to lie. I have vivid memories of where I was the first time I heard that album. That being said, there is no argument with me saying that there was a divergence in the force when Van Halen's first album came out, and it brought us an attitude and an emotion and a sense of what the heck are we listening to? Van Halen one has my overwhelming vote as well.
Woo! Cool. Okay.
All right. No arguments here.
No power play.
No power play. Again, my clear preference is Van Halen. I just had a feeling Born in the USA was kind of like a Cinderella in this bracket.
Could you make the argument that Born in the USA was bigger and or more important, even regardless of your like or dislike? I don't think I could make that case really either.
No, but I suffer from the curse of youth. Right? Is that I wasn't around when VH1 came out. I was around when Born in the USA came out, and it changed everything. So I experienced that firsthand.
All right. Well, I've got one here for you that I know you've experienced firsthand. So you're going to enjoy this matchup. So this is the what do we got in this bracket? This is the number one in this bracket versus. I got to go backwards here and figure out where it came from. There it is, a 4. So a 1 and a 4 matchup. We've got Hotel California by the band that yacht rockers do not like to say their name. And that is up against one of the albums that comes from outside of the time range. And to make it this far really says something about that album, and that's U2's Joshua Tree.
Yeah. This is another album, Joshua Tree, that I experienced as a youth, being game-changing, world-changing. I think it put this band that was already very popular, maybe in the fringes, it put them smack dab in the middle of everybody's talking about this album. Even having said that, Hotel California to me is rightfully a 1 seed, possibly the first top overall seed. I don't know. I don't think even me, being a Gen X cool kid, could put Joshua Tree ahead of Hotel California. What do you think, Kevin?
It's a tough one. That's another pulling on some really big heartstrings and influential creativity in my life. Joshua Tree, like you said, Tom, just a game changer in 1987, I believe, is the year for that album. It solidified a band's upward trajectory in a very cementing way. To this day, still, I would argue, probably in my top 5 of albums of all time. But I don't know how you put it up against an iconic, and that's my word today, is apparently iconic, Hotel California. Not taking anything away from Joshua Tree at all. I believe that to be the same, but oh my gosh, I was tardy to the party with the Eagles. It wasn't until I was in later high school, and there were tons of friends that older brothers and sisters were listening to the Eagles growing up. And I just remember hearing Hotel California for the first time and saying, I've never really heard songwriting as complete as this record. I think my vote's going to get Hotel California as well.
Yeah, that would be obviously my choice too. And for the record, I think we've said the word iconic a zillion times during this tournament as well.
Right on.
It forces you into it. So where do we go next? That completes that side of the bracket. So I suppose that means the obligatory commercial break, right?
All right. That's called paying the bills in the podcasting industry or business. So just a little inside baseball for you.
Yeah.
All right. Is it my turn to present? No, it's your turn to present. Oh, it is my turn? Yes, it is. Okay. Well, we are going to go up to the Bernie Grudman 180 gram remaster region that just flows off the tongue.
Almost done there.
Yeah. For the last time, number 1 seed, this is the Boston debut album, Kevin, going against Journey's Infinity album. That's a nice matchup because they're in the pocket with each other, I think. So who's going to advance?
To me, this is a no-brainer. I'm a huge fan of both bands. The Boston debut album is good, but come on, Journey. I'm throwing it all on Journey on this one, guys.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, good. Well, I'm glad I'm the presenter, John.
Yeah, how do I want to play this? I guess
you're either going to decide or you're going to let me decide.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to, do backdoor politics like you did. I'm going to go with the one I think should go through, and that's Boston. But it still puts it into your breadbasket. So Boston, Infinity. I think I know which way you're going to go because you don't have the affinity for Infinity that Kevin and I do.
But I do, because that was the Steve Perry birth, right?
Yeah,
the Steve Perry era. And that's, that's one of the most important developments in rock and roll history.
True.
But so is the Boston album. That debut album that was years in the making was so genius. We did a whole episode on it. We didn't do a whole episode on Infinity. We just did a whole episode on Journey. So that math checks out as far as I'm concerned. I appreciate Kevin's willingness to go out on a limb for Infinity. But I'm going to put Boston through.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy.
So there you go.
Now we have a matchup of two very unlike things. One of these things is not like the other. In fact, they're both not like the other. We have Pink Floyd's The Wall concept album. We have also sort of, in the past, people have referred to the film as well. So we're allowing that because of the cultural importance of the film and how it ties to that album against the Cars debut.
Wow, this is an interesting dichotomy, right? You have the Cars that were at one point super large and owned everything from the radio forward, and obviously Rick Ocasek is a brilliant musician, producer, singer. But come on, I mean, again, without sounding repetitive, The Wall is The Wall for a reason. My vote is for The Wall.
Tom.
Oh, so it's me, huh? Contemplating taking a risk here.
Ooh.
My vote would also be for The Wall. Largely on feel, because it just feels bigger. Like it's just this huge masterpiece of a project. But I'm tempted to kick it over to you, John, to see if the Cars has enough legs to overcome it. But then if I do that, I'm going to feel really bad. No, I'm going to put The Wall through on a 2-1/3-0. What is it, John?
It is a 3-0.
Okay.
That Cars debut album, there's people probably yelling at their radios right now. It, in terms of pop songwriting and that early new wave thing, it was very groundbreaking. The songs are sort of simple, but they're more sophisticated than it sounds. But it just, in scope, it feels like a smaller project than The Wall. The Wall is so grandiose. It was such a massive undertaking that I think The Wall goes through. So it is a 3-0.
All right.
So
Good.
I just need to update. Dark Side of the Moon was recorded at Abbey Road.
Okay.
The Wall, I was mistaken, was recorded at multiple studios in different countries.
Oh. Well, I know they must have done something in California, because at some point Jeff Porcaro laid down drums on Mother, and I think there's a couple others he played on.
That is absolutely true. It was recorded at Cherokee Studios in Hollywood, as well as Producers Workshop in the LA area.
Okay.
No wonder it sounds so yachty. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. All righty.
All right. Well, let's go down to the final region. Let's get physical media region.
Nice
And this is an interesting entry here, because Songs from the Big Chair has emerged into the Sibling 16 from a 9 seed, overcoming Heartbeat City, overcoming Rumors, the #1 seed. That was a shocker. And it is going up against a new world record, which is a 13 seed, getting past Face Value and getting past the Footloose soundtrack. So who wants to take this one on? This is an interesting matchup.
I'm going to leave that to Kevin. I know a little something about his affinity for Songs from the Big Chair and Tears for Fears in general, but let's see what he thinks, if he can be objective at all.
I think I can be objective in this one, because I don't believe Songs from the Big Chair is Tears for Fears' best album.
That's what I've been saying all tournament.
That's
I
not,
have been,
that's
you
not
know,
the question.
I know.
But anyway,
That's not the issue. You're right. So it's easy for me to be objective on an album that I think is
Pause for 1 second. Let's get out. Which one is their best, in your opinion? You're probably thinking
I'll go.
Sowing the Seeds, right? Is that your favorite?
there's no question that's their best work in my humble opinion.
My
And
favorite is Raul in the Kings of Spain. So
My favorite is The Hurting. So there you go.
Right. And listen, there's something to be said about their latest album, The Tipping Point.
great.
That is absolutely breathtaking. So, I mean, there's a reason I have these personal reasons why I love that band so much. But listen, Jeff Lynne and ELO, come on. We're talking about a member of the Traveling Wilburys here, right? Like, this is, one might argue that their album should have been somewhere on that list at some point in time. However, I don't know if a New World Record did as much for the music world that Songs from the Big Chair did at the time. And if I'm just going for impact on popular music, some might hate me for saying this. I'm going to have to potentially go with Songs from the Big Chair over a new world record.
Well, I get a vote here, and I think that's going to land it back in your lap, Tom. Again, I don't think a new world record is, maybe it is Yellow's best. It's close. It's not as big as Out of the Blue being a double record set, but that one got knocked out earlier. I think I would probably lean to ELO on this, because this is where they've reached their peak in terms of incorporating orchestra and classical influences fully into the band. They weren't just kind of pasted on. So I'm going to go ELO, and that puts the into your lap, Tom. What do you think?
As you recall, I was the one that put New World Record through last time, largely on sentimental value, because Out of the Blue had been ousted just prior.
Yeah.
And I felt like that sort of the sum total of those two albums elevates ELO over even anything Tears for Fears did in their totality. Kind of going to make that same emotional argument this time, I think. I think my personal preference would be to go listen to Songs from the Big Chair, but only because I grew up with a New World Record in the house since I was a wee lad. I have my Heads or Tails thing. Okay, here we go. Heads is Songs from the Big Chair. Tails, ELO's going through. New World Record. That really was a coin flip for me. So, all right.
Rock fans, this is the one you've been waiting for.
That's why I wanted to go this one to go last.
Yes. So who's up? I guess I'm posing, aren't I?
Yep. Pose it to Kevin, because I want nothing to do with it.
You want nothing to do with it. Well, these are in some ways two of Fagen's probably highest achievements, and that is going to be his first solo album, Nightfly. That was a 3 seed, and it is going up against the number 2 seed in this region, and that is Asia. Asia or Nightfly. Kevin, thoughts?
I think being obviously a yacht rock fan and knowing Fagen's place in the world of the yacht, I've spent a lot of time with both of these albums.
Yeah.
I'm just going to solely go for a non-emotional choice with this one. And I think, personally, I think it's Asia.
Okay. Who does it go to next? Me or you, John?
You.
Okay. To me, it's Asia, and it's not close. I just think Asia is a masterpiece for all the reasons we've well documented. And that's all I'll say on that matter, because the rest is Nightfly. So, John?
Yeah, I think Nightfly had a good run because it is great in and of itself, but it's still going back to some of the things we said about some of the other albums. It feels like a smaller project, a smaller accomplishment, because Asia had already been done, and even obviously Gaucho had been done. But Asia, I think, is the groundbreaking piece that has to go through.
All right. Well, here we go. We are down to the Elite 8, I guess it would be, right? So we can rip through these. I think we've already intellectualized all of these, but can I just start in the upper left, John, and we'll alternate back and forth?
Too late to call it the Analog 8?
Analog 8, yes.
Ooh.
I don't understand how that is accidents or consonants, but anyways. Yeah, okay. So, all right, I'm going to go first. Kevin, Thriller or Purple Rain? This is Prince against Michael Jackson. They battled it out in the 80s. They're going to battle it out again.
And also in my top 5 of all time.
Which, both?
Both of those records are in my top 5. I don't see if they're battling against each other. I don't see how Prince makes it through on this one. I have to go with Thriller.
And I would go the other way. I think Prince was superior in everything that he did. Not by much, but I think he was the superior artist, and this is the superior album. Tom, you have to break that tie. You cannot use your coin flipper.
What's funny is I actually agree with both of you. I think Prince is the superior artist in pretty much every category, believe it or not. But I think the Thriller album has the benefit of Quincy, and that made it a bigger piece of art and a bigger piece of history, and I'm putting Thriller through.
Okay. Now we're going to go into more of a rock and roll area, and we have to go with our instincts here. Hotel California or Van Halen debut? Kevin.
Again, these matchups are getting brutal, man. How do you
Welcome to
right
the show.
there? Geez. Again, I think I think when you look at the totality of the album itself, I have to go with Hotel California.
Tom.
Agreed. Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's much more to say. It's just, it was a huge, right? Huge.
All right, then I'm going to take the authority here and finish off this side of the bracket then. Hotel or Thriller? Which one goes to the final? Hotel or Thriller? Quick.
Thriller.
Thriller.
Okay. Tom, you want to take us through the beginnings of the other side?
Yep. Okay. Boston's debut against the Wall. We get to relitigate the importance of the Wall here. Kevin?
I would say Boston's debut.
Yeah, Boston. I'm
Over
going
the
to
Wall.
Okay, ELO, here's your last chance to make it to the Final Four. We have a new world record going against the top-heavy Asia.
Asia.
Asia for me as well.
Asia for me as well.
Oh, boy. Tom, you want to finish this off?
Here we go. Who is going to be crowned the victor?
Oh, we got to get one into the final. So Boston or Asia? Which one's going into the final?
I already chalked them in. What do you got?
Asia. I think Asia's in the final.
Yeah.
All right. So the Yacht Rock audience has been waiting for this. It's come to fisticuffs. Yeah, hopefully the three of us can agree. It'll be interesting to see how we figure this out. If we don't, we may get back to your coin flipper, Tom. But we got Thriller, Thriller, and Asia are the two finalists. What say you? I have my thoughts. Mine is decided. I've already put my little card down inside the slot, in the game show thing, and then we went ding.
It has nothing to do with whether or not any of us made whoopee, right? Okay, good.
Or the weirdest place that we made Whoopi, right?
Exactly. Right. I can't go first. This is so hard for me.
All right, I'll tell you what I think. It's Asia.
I'll go second.
Okay.
I'm sorry to do that to you, Tom, to leave you as the third, but I don't think in my lifetime there's a better album than Thriller.
I'm not going to argue. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking the finest of margins. So
It's very fine, thin margins here, right?
Okay, so now you helped me answer my own debate here, internal debate. I don't think there's ever been a bigger album than Thriller.
right.
It's not to say it's better than Asia, but it's definitely bigger. Culturally, I'm sure sales had the benefit of being in the MTV era. Michael Jackson is an icon, like him or not, in a way that neither Fagan or Becker were. To me, it's just, unfortunately, because I love Asia so much, it has to be Thriller.
I know. I think you're changing my mind. So I think it's going to be unanimous. If you're saying Thriller, I'll go with that.
All right, Thriller it is. Wow.
We have a winner.
Wow. Are you guys surprised that Thriller won?
Not really. My bigger surprise is that I would have thought maybe something more concept album may have made it here because Thriller is a collection of singles. In a lot of ways, Asia is too, different personnel on every tune.
Yep.
It wasn't an album with a certain amount of continuity like the Boston album or a Wall or Hotel California or something like that.
Right.
Tom, do you have any thoughts in retrospect?
I had a sneaking feeling that it was going to be all number one seeds in the Final Four, and it was, with the exception of Rumors. So we had Asia was the 2 seed. I was a little worried that it was going to be Hotel California versus Thriller in the final, and it wasn't, but they met in the semis. So, I mean, if you would have gone back 4 weeks and said who's going to win this thing, I would have said Thriller. So it feels right to me.
If you were posed with Hotel California versus Thriller, would you have still gone Thriller with the same logic?
If it was in the finals?
Yeah. I know the bracket would have been different, but just theoretically.
Probably. For the same reason, same exact reasons.
For Thriller.
Yep.
Okay. Is there an album from this era, Kevin, that you think I know you didn't see all the bracket of all the earlier stuff, but are there any that immediately come to mind from this era that you thought should be deserved of more mention?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think, when I saw the 16 that made it this far, rumors would be an argument, right? That was a pretty
I was surprised that one
masterful record, But there's a lot that I didn't put stock into until I actually started talking through these with you guys. It's hard to match them up against other albums that are great, and the criteria that you use to try to figure out which album should move through to that next spot is very difficult, specifically when you throw Thriller and Purple Rain at someone like me. Obviously, in my top 5 of albums, and for the same reasons you said, John, I think it's a superior. There are moments of Purple Rain that are otherworldly, right? There are moments of Thriller that are otherworldly too, but I don't know how you argue with the general public in a lot of ways. I think when an album becomes the biggest selling album of all time, and I know it's up for debate with Hotel California, and I really don't know if there's any real way to decide to know which album is better, because both record labels are padding all of their numbers.
Well, this is where somebody jumps in and says, "Well, McDonald's sells a lot of hamburgers too." So
that's true, right? That's part of the truth, right? That is part of the truth.
I have a quick speed round for you. Don't talk it over. Don't think it over. Just speak. Let's say Prince did beat Thriller. So now Prince versus Hotel. So we're talking Purple Rain, Hotel California.
Probably Purple Rain for me. I can't find an album that would beat that in this
Purple
tournament.
Rain for me.
Purple Rain.
Okay, Purple Rain versus Asia.
Gosh, I think it would be Purple Rain.
Purple Rain.
So there you go. That was the matchup. That was the linchpin right there. Because I agree.
That's a tough matchup, right?
What's the original seed of Purple Rain? Do you recall?
Purple Rain was a
3.
3. Yeah.
But it grows on you, not necessarily from listening, but the more you talk about it, the more you realize how great it was. It's one thing to be tired of hearing When Doves Cry or something on the radio, but when you sit and start to intellectualize it, and the fact that he pretty much played everything except for a few exceptions. I guess that's what the exceptions are, but
Listen,
it starts to grow, and you add the movie.
When I put it on, I don't go to the beautiful ones and hit start. I start at Let's Go Crazy, and I listen to that album from front to back. And there aren't many albums today that I can do that with.
I guess Let's Go Crazy is probably the one that was really saturated. But yeah, I agree with you.
But it's such an interesting journey to go through it, because it's not just a collection of singles. It's different sounds, different songs, different writing. It's brilliant. All right. Well, Kevin, before we let you go, speaking of brilliant, what are the Docksiders up to? You guys still out in Vegas? Give us an update on what's going on and what's to come.
We are in Vegas. We just signed a new deal extending our residency at the Venetian for another almost year and a half. We have one of the most difficult tickets to pick up in Las Vegas right now. We're very grateful that our show has connected with a lot of people. We just had our friend Denise Williams of Let's Hear It for the Boy fame join us on stage and perform her song with us, which was just amazing. And we're just grateful that we can make people happy playing the music that we love and share that joy of the yacht with other fans. The cool part about being a yacht rock in a yacht rock experience is that we've seen it drastically increase amongst the general public over the 6 years we've been doing the Docksiders. There were times where we'd get on stage and would have to explain to the entire audience what yacht rock was. And now, let me tell you something, due to all of your hard work and the boat finding its own way, a lot of people know what yacht rock is right now. So it feels really cool to be part of the movement.
Still feels like it's on an upward trajectory too. Are you guys
absolutely
moving around, like touring at all during the summer, hitting any of the warmer, the summer markets, the northern markets?
Yeah, we will. You can find all of our tour dates on our website at thedocksiders.com. Facebook and Instagram, all at the Docksiders. That's the places to find where we're going to be. We've got some cool shows coming up this summer. Not as much as we've done the last 2 years, because there is a pretty big demand for what we're doing here in Las Vegas. And I have to be honest, this gray isn't as accurate as it's depicted in my beard. And the amount of gray that I have is keeping me a little bit excited about not having to travel as much and let people find our show here in town. So it's really cool. We're playing Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays now, and soon to be extending to Wednesdays and Sundays.
How are the voices holding out?
It's a really great question. It is, I think this is where my idea of putting multiple lead singers in the band was kind of smart, because we can, it's like playing the stock market. You don't put all your stocks in one basket. You want to diversify. Right. There you go.
Well, there you go. You heard it directly from the man who was 1 degree of separation away from Songs in the Key of Life. That's pretty cool. Denise Williams was on that record.
Very cool. And I've worked with Stevie too. So
there you go.
There was nothing quite as cool as having his voice come down a fader that I was touching. It was pretty wicked,
All right. Well, speaking of wicked, thank you for crowning Thriller with us, John.
Thank you, guys.
We'll find out later, I guess, if you guys are collaborating, what you two kids are up to, I suppose.
Yeah, and we need input from the peeps on what we're going to do next year. It was hard enough getting this one figured out. So I don't know. I think I've run out of ideas. So I'd love to hear some ideas. In fact, this one came from an outside source as well.
All right. There you go. Well, thanks, Kevin. We'll wish you well, and we'll talk to you again next time on Out of the Main.
Always great hanging with you guys. Thanks for asking me to be a part of it.